Alpha League Tournament Pack for Season 17.
We're not doing nonsense here.
What is Alpha League? Welcome to Alpha League. Alpha is a regular Warhammer 40,000 tournament series played online via Tabletop Simulator and coordinated and hosted by the TTS Warhammer 40k Discord. A new season starts about every couple of months, and for most people involves committing to playing 4 matches spread over a 4-week period, arranged by you and your opponents to fit your own schedules. The top 32 players after that initial period then enter a knockout stage to crown an ultimate champion. Who is it aimed at? Pretty much anyone. Alpha players hail from all over the world and have an enormous range of experience levels, from some who have been big names on the tournament scene for years, to others who are getting their first taste of competitive 40k by playing in our league. Please don't worry that you're not good enough. Everyone has to start somewhere, and we're delighted to be that somewhere for many people. Equally, if you're a solid tournament player, don't be concerned that you're only going to face new players. As with any sizable tournament, you might encounter one or two, but you're not going to take the crown without beating some serious challenge. Who is it not aimed at? There are just 3 categories of people that probably shouldn't sign up for Alpha League. Those with very inflexible schedules. You'll be expected to arrange games with other people at times that are convenient for both of you. These people could have very different shift patterns or be in very different time zones. If your work and family life dictate that you're only available on weekdays and only between 8 PM and midnight, Alpha isn't for you. Similarly, if things are very busy in your life right now, exam season or house move or whatever, and fitting in those 4 matches is a challenge, maybe give this season a miss and try again next season. Those who are completely new to 40k. If you've only previously played friendly games with mates and have never touched the competitive side of the game, that's absolutely fine, but if you don't know the rules yet, or you think you've got the theory but you've never tried putting it into practice, get a few games under your belt before you jump into a tournament. And that guy. We all want to win, but it is just a game that we play for fun. If people don't have fun when they're playing you, give this a miss. League structure. There are 125 player slots available each season. For the main part of the season, league stage players are split into 25 pods of 5 players each. This lasts for 4 weeks, during which you need to play each of your 4 pod opponents once in any order. After the league stage of the season, we have playoffs. The top player from each group, plus the 7 players who scored highest without winning their pod, will form our 32-player single-elimination mini-tournament. Initial pairings are random, and the last person remaining undefeated will be the winner of that season of Alpha League. The playoff bracket should take about 2 weeks to complete all matches, with each round played within about a 3-day window. List resubmission for playoffs is at the tournament organiser's discretion. How is the winner of a pod determined? Number of wins, with draws counting as half a win, then score differential, the plus and minus column. If 2 players are tied using those criteria, then we use the total score across your 4 matches, and in the unlikely event they drew that too, we use the result of the match those 2 players played against each other. Sounds great. What do I need to do? Register for the event. Alpha League is run via tournament. See Season 17 quick reference in the written version of this doc for a link to the current season's registration page. Create a tournament account if you don't have one already, and sign up to the upcoming season. You don't need an army list at this point. By all means include it in your registration if you already have one, but you can sign up without one, and spots are first come first served, so get in quickly. If you weren't, be patient. We usually get a couple of early dropouts and can offer their spots to those who just missed out. Build your army list. Create your army list in Rosterizer. It must follow all the rules for a 2,000-point Strikeforce army from the core rulebook. Forge World is permitted, Legends are not. All pre-game selections and upgrades, including enhancements, must be included on the list. Each season has a rules cut-off date, and all indexes, rule supplements, and FAQs published on or before this date are in effect for the season. You should also familiarise yourself with the Alpha League FAQ, particularly the general bits, and the sections relevant to your faction. Once you have made your list in Rosterizer, click the far right tab to get a text version of the list. Copy the text formatted list to Ctrl-C and hit Submit, and then copy and paste the link into Tournament. Lists can be changed up and until the deadline. It is your responsibility to submit a correct list with relevant enhancements and war gear options. If you notice an issue with anyone's list, please inform a member of the judge team and they will take it from there. What if I need to change my list? That's fine. List changes are accepted up until the registration deadline and nobody will have looked at your list prior to then. Build your army in TTS. Use models from the Battleforge. The use of models from sources other than Battleforge is possible, but you must get them inspected and approved by an alpha judge before you use them. Judges will approve models that match the base size and are very close in profile and silhouette to the equivalent in Battleforge. If you're looking to use a custom model because you feel the one in Battleforge has the wrong size or pose, that won't be accepted because consistency between players is more important than matching real life. We'd obviously like to achieve both, but the route to getting that is getting Battleforge fixed, so please work with the Battleforge team or message the TO on the TTS 40k Discord server on any improvements to Battleforge models that you feel are warranted. If you've made your own models, they need to meet the same criteria, and they need to be published so that anybody can use them. Once you have your list built, it is a requirement of Alpha League that they are yellow scribed. To do this, first export your list on Rosterizer, go to yellowscribe.xyz and upload the list which you have just exported, and then open TTS and open YellowScribe, submit the code, and make your army. Please also find the relevant index cards for your list and save those too. Once you have your list yellow scribed and you have your index cards, please run the Cleaner tool on all models, index cards, and tokens you will be using and save the files. Playing your games. The Alpha League pod stage runs for 4 weeks, and you are expected to have played all 4 of your matches in this time period. It is your responsibility to arrange all your matches in this time frame. If you're unable to do so and need to drop, please speak with Aravor directly. For this season of Alpha League, we will not be using Dawn of War deployment. If a mission using that deployment is selected, hit the button again. If you schedule a match with an opponent and they don't show up, give them a second chance to rearrange the match. If they don't show up to the rescheduled match, it will count as a drop for that player from Alpha League. This may sound harsh, but remember, when you are scheduling a game and not turning up, you are wasting your opponent's time. Each player in the game is allowed to veto one mission, A through O, from the list on page 3 of the Leviathan Tournament Companion. Do this before Step 2, Determine Mission, in the pre-game steps document. Each player rolls off to determine who will be revealing what mission they will be vetoing, with the winner of the roll-off revealing first. Alpha League uses the Leviathan Tournament Companion and the mission pool from it. In the FTC base, simply click the Random GW button to randomly select a mission. Determine Map. Alpha League uses the WTC map pack, and we will be using the medium density. There are various maps for each deployment we will be using. Roll 1d6 to determine the map, with a result of 1 being the lowest map number and a result of 6 being the highest. If there are only 3 maps for the deployment, re-roll the die. Scoring. Once you have determined a winner and a loser for the match, it is time to submit your score. Scores for matches should be recorded on Tournament with a screenshot of the scorecard. Streaming. You're welcome to stream your matches, with your opponent's agreement, via whatever medium you prefer. Twitch, Discord sharing, YouTube, whatever. When you're watching a live game via any form of media, there is to be absolutely no backseat gaming. Your microphone should be muted, and only an alpha judge can answer a rules query during the game. If you're watching the game and believe something is being played wrong, inform a member of the judge team. Do not interrupt the players playing the game. Terrain. See the earlier Playing Your Games section for instructions on picking a map. The ruins we use in Alpha League count as having all ground floor windows being line of sight blocking. They are clearly labelled with the terrain traits they have and work fully in accordance with Games Workshop's terrain rules from page 48 of the core rulebook. We use TTS to simulate the physical game, and as such, models are never allowed to end their move clipping through these terrain features. The footprint of our ruins is exactly the base they're on, so you do not count as within the terrain feature by touching the wall from the outside. Containers are similar, except they're considered to occupy the full cuboid of space they're within, so there's no line of sight to be drawn through gaps like this. Please refer to the terrain rules on page 46 of the core rulebook for more information on containers. Crates have downward projection for determining line of sight. For further information on terrain and the maps being used in Alpha League, please refer to the WTC diagrams on their website. Objectives. Alpha maps use standard 40mm objective markers. Note that some objective markers may end up being placed upon a terrain piece. This is explicitly fine and a change from the Games Workshop ruling. The only exception to this is an objective marker being upon a ruin or cargo container where it must be placed at ground level. Chess clocks. During the league stage, a chess clock must be used if either player wants to, or if the match is being played on the TTS 40K Discord stream. Allocate 2 hours to each player and start the clock at the beginning of the Deploy Armies step of the mission. During the playoffs, a chess clock is mandatory. Allocate 1 hour 45 minutes to each player. If a player runs out of time, they must finish the current unit's movement if they were in the middle of moving a unit, or finish the current attack sequence if they were in the middle of one, but then may take no actions other than to allocate incoming attacks to models and to make dice rolls that the game requires of them, e.g. saving throws or morale tests. They cannot even use the command reroll stratagem to reroll a save. You'll continue to score all points that do not require you to act further. For example, if you've run out of time before the start of your turn, then in your turn you can still score for completing a data intercept action that you started before you ran out of time, and score primary points for being on objectives, score engage on all fronts if you still have units in 3/4 at the end of the turn. The key principle governing chess clock usage is that it is your right to pass the clock to your opponent whenever he or she is making a decision or acting, and never your responsibility to have it passed back to you. You manage your own time, and if your opponent passes the clock to you for an action, and you do not pass it back after completing that action, that is on you. An opponent with good sportsmanship will hopefully prompt you to pass the clock back if they notice that they're acting on your time, but noticing it is your responsibility and not theirs. If neither of you notices, that is entirely your error and your opponent owes you nothing. While you have the right to pass the clock whenever your opponent is doing something, in the interests of keeping things fun and not spending half your life pressing the clock button, do consider only passing for significant opponent actions. For example, you blow up a transport, and your opponent needs to roll for explosion, place all the models, roll for deaths, and pull dead models. Totally pass them the clock. You blow up a non-transport vehicle, and your opponent just needs to roll for explosion. Maybe don't bother passing them the clock. Oh, but they rolled that 6, and it did explode, and now they need to roll wounds and feel no pains for 4 nearby units? Okay, now pass them the clock. Fast rolling. Something that's occasionally contentious in competitive 40k is the combination of fast rolling and CP rerolling. Strictly speaking, the rules don't allow fast rolling, and doing so can give you an information advantage. If you fast roll a bunch of dice and then decide to CP reroll one of them, you're doing so with more information than the formal rules intend for you to have. Similarly, if you fast roll saves, you end up knowing exactly how many models are about to die, before you choose which ones will. However, we have a hints and tips bar that does cover fast rolling. These are officially not rules, but they're recommendations, and their existence means that the game designers apparently aren't bothered about that information advantage. Alpha's policy, which has changed since 9th edition, is: we encourage you to discuss with each opponent before each game starts which way you want to play this. If you don't discuss it, the default position is that the hints and tips are in force. You can fast roll hits, wounds and saves in the circumstances allowed by the fast rolling tips without it affecting your ability to reroll. We also extend the hints to cover batching. If you're not allowed to fast roll all your dice because they're not identical, you can fast roll identical batches. For example, if you take 10 wounds where 5 of your models have the benefit of cover, you can announce that you're taking the saves on models in cover first and fast roll 5 of them. Or, if 6s to wound have an additional AP, and your opponent rolled a 6th as their 4th wound, you can fast roll the first 3 saves. However, when it comes to fast rolling saves, we strongly encourage the order of allocation to be pre-declared if it might matter. For example, fast rolling 10 1-damage saves on an Eldari infantry squad, failing 6, and electing to pull 5 models and put 1 wound on the Exarch is poor sportsmanship. If either player states before the game that they wish to use the formal rules, the hints and tips are not in use. Hits, rolls and saves can still be fast rolled, but only if it would have 0 impact, which means that you cannot re-roll a fast roll die or use an ability to change the value of one unless you pre-announce, e.g. I'll re-roll the first fail. Also, you cannot fast roll saves without pre-declaring the allocation order. What if it was a draw? A draw in the group stages is fine. That's a valid result. In playoffs, though, we need one player to go through to the next round. Apply these criteria. If one player scored higher on primaries during the drawn match, that player wins. If both players matched on primaries, the win goes to whichever player had the best record from the league stage. In the very unlikely event that both players have identical league stage records, you'll need to play again. Sorry! Drops, concessions, and no-shows. In signing up for Alpha League, you're making a commitment to play 4 full matches. In a league format, your results affect more than your own standings. Even if you have an unsuccessful tournament, the exact scores in your games might decide who wins the pod. And if you drop out without having played any games, that A. took up a spot that someone else could have taken, and B. detracts from the experience of your podmates. It's poor tournament etiquette, therefore, to do anything less than show up and do your best for all 4 matches. This game is no fun. I want to resign. Given the above, conceding a match early is to be avoided. Even if you can't win the pod anymore and this game's going badly for you too, the rest of your podmates are still counting on you to get the best result that you can. We're not going to try to force you to play out a game you're not enjoying though, so if you really want to call it early, please at least make it to the end of the first battle round, and then you can concede. Your score will be fixed where it is at the point you concede, and your opponent will score any further points that they would have been able to. Something major just happened. I need to drop out. Sometimes real life intrudes, and you have to cancel your participation. If you want to drop out of the current season, contact the TO, Aravor, to let him know, and explain why. A player who drops out will have all of their results, including both matches they'd already played and those they haven't played yet, changed to 0.85 forfeits in tournament, in an effort to avoid affecting anyone else's standings. No, this is not a perfect solution. There isn't one, which is why we don't want people to drop out. If your opponent drops out, please do not enter this result yourself. Inform Aravor. Note that conceding a match before the end of the first battle round is not allowed and will be counted as you dropping. Dropping without a solid reason will likely mean you won't be welcome back to future seasons of Alpha League. And failing to play all of your matches by the deadline is effectively dropping. You must contact the TO if it looks like you might have to do that. To repeat ourselves, arrange matches early. And again, we'll be looking for a solid reason. Further resources. In order to promote good sportsmanship each season and to help protect our players in matches, please take a look at the Code of Conduct document. There is also a Yellow Scribe tutorial linked for assistance in getting your army into TTS. Discord server channels. Alpha announcements for the latest news and updates regarding Alpha League. Alpha chat for discussion of Alpha League and related events. Alpha scheduling. You can find and organise games as well as reserve rights to be streamed on our Twitch channel. Alpha questions and answers. Ask Alpha League related questions. Note that only an Alpha judge can answer your rules queries in an official capacity. Keep this chat to questions and answers only. Alpha rulings for a log of changes made to the Alpha League FAQ. And Alpha role assignment request. Post here to ask for the Alpha role to be added to or removed from your account. That concludes tonight's reading of the Alpha League Tournament Pack for Season 17. I hope you enjoyed listening, and good night.